Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another advanced onboarding session. Today's content is going to be generated around AI and agents, and excited to see kind of what Jeff prepared and to give you a little bit of a framework I've used to find out at what point in automation do you use AI and at what point you would leverage agents. Quick agenda, as usual. I'll do a quick introduction. So I'll tell you a little bit more about myself. I'll let Jeff speak for himself. We'll do housekeeping and resources. We'll cover these cases and demo that Jeff's prepared, and then we like to leave space for Q&A. So any use case questions or information that would be helpful for us to cover that you didn't hear, we're happy to do that then. So I'm trying to manage letting people in and slides at the same time. So for resources, the onboarding sessions are changing a little bit. So you've seen a survey, you'll probably see more surveys. We found that, especially in the quarterly sprints, it's helpful to hear what's relevant and what people want to actually learn about, especially in these sessions. The intro to mix sessions will likely stay the same, but these sessions have your influence. So any feedback that you have for us on these, especially at the end of each session, we do a quick NPS score. We would love to hear it because we're trying to build these out based off of what you need and what is going to be relevant to what you're trying to build. The Luma calendar is the best place to keep up with that. I think I've sent it out, and I try to send it out in every follow-up. So if you've got any questions about what we'll be covering in advance sessions over the next quarter, feel free to reference that as a resource. And then partner events and use case specific enablement is another thing that we've been prioritizing. So me and Jeff will be leading a webinar with HubSpot actually on December 9th. I'll send out information about that in a follow-up email as well. But there's always going to be like a trickling amount of partner-based events or use case-based enablement that you can attend outside of these sessions. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Jeff is a fantastic resource. He's our tech partner that you can follow up with at any point if you have any questions and want to pursue any one-to-one enablement outside of these group sessions. And then the bottom row is all things that you've probably seen before, but the Academy is great. Our community is another place that you can join, collaborate with other founders, ask questions, etc. The templates is one of my favorites. You can kind of plug and play those, and you can even do that within Make Now. And then the Help Center is great. And then for anything technical that's not working properly, you can reach out to support. Let me let these folks in. Okay, so this image I got from 9X, our partners, right when I started with Make. As the conversation around AI and the buzz started to build, they presented this as a framework for trying to identify when you use automation, AI workflows, and AI agents. So for automation, you're thinking about a program that executes predefined rule-based tasks automatically. So using those APIs, building those binary workflows, and having the option to scale those into what we've probably seen be the most impactful in AI workflows, right? So a program that calls an LLM via API for one or more steps. Over the last few months at Make, we've seen at least one of every 2 new customers, so half of our new customers, starting out automations with this AI workflow, this LLM in one of the steps. So this is an easy thing to scale, or easy way to scale with the influence of AI, things that you've already built. And then an agent is going to be a program designed to perform non-deterministic tasks autonomously. Jeff will probably be a better resource at kind of showing you what this looks like. But for what you'll see in Make, those first 2 become really helpful resources for the agent to have some context on determining what to do based off of the prompting that you give. I'm going to add this to the chat because it was a great resource for me. But as people are planning and thinking about use cases and questions that you have, I thought it was a really good resource to identify, what could just be an automation, what could be an automation with the influence of AI, and then what could an agent be able to do to help kind of scale what you've already built or are working towards. Submit your questions. This is one of those kind of housekeeping things, but it's really helpful for us to have maybe context or insights to what you're thinking about in advance. Jeff's going to run through some use cases and has some things to share with us, but any questions that you have right now or any use cases that you want us to make sure that we cover, if you want to put those in the chat, I'll be reading those off once Jeff goes through the content that he's prepared. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to come off of mute and kind of ask them while they're hot while Jeff's running through the use cases. With that, I'll pass it over to you, Jeff. Thanks everybody for being here.
Sounds great, Robbie. I have that document included in what I've pinned in the chat so far inside of the document they can download for this event. So I added that to that document.
Lovely. Perfect. So thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jeff Arnold. I am the president of 4Spot Consulting. It's a business I've owned for 12 years. We are automation experts. We are Make Gold partners. And that's part of the reason we're working with Robbie to help you guys out in these sessions, to help educate you about how you can use Make to automate your business and streamline all of your marketing and operations. So as Robbie mentioned, if you have any use cases that you're kind of more on the side of like, hey, this is awesome, but I want somebody else to do it for me, that's what we do. So feel free to reach out. Today, we're going to cover, as Robbie mentioned, we're going to talk about AI and agents and kind of show you how you can use them inside of your Make account. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen, and I want to share this whole window. So you should be seeing my empty Make screen here. Okay. In the chat, as I mentioned, please make sure you can see that I pinned a document. That document is an outline of everything that we're going over today. As Robbie mentioned, there are a lot of different resources you can use to help educate yourself about automation. I've included those as well. There's a great page on the Make site. There's a YouTube channel they have that has a list of, I think it's 10 different videos you can watch about how you can use AI. AI obviously is this massive nebulous thing that we could probably, as we were talking before we started here, we could probably run about 40 different sessions about AI and still not touch all of the different use cases and all of the different things you can do. So our goal today is to be able to give you an overview of what you can do inside of Make using the different AI steps that they have here. It's not going to be comprehensive. We're not going to answer every single question, but the idea here is to be able to get you to understand what is possible, give you some ideas of things that you can build, show you a little bit of what we're building inside of Make, and do some on-screen demo for you. And then in that document that I provided, the screenshot or the graph, the table that Robbie shared earlier, that is inside of that document. And also we have some different use cases and examples of when you would use automation, when you would use an agent inside of your automation, and when you would actually, AI in your automation, and when you would actually use an agent inside of your process. So on my screen right now, I'm showing, and I'll show you, this is the document we're going to be working from. It's giving you a quick overview, some use cases you can use, some demos you can try yourself, some of the best practices you can use when you're using Make in general. And then here's the list of all the different things that you can go to be able to go and find those sources that you're looking for. And then I kind of broke down here inside of the Make AI toolkit. We talk about what each of the items are, and I'm going to go through that here in more detail today, but giving you ideas and what you would do with each of the different types of AI steps that are included inside of Make. And then at the bottom here, again, we have this item that Robbie had shared with the breakdown of the information.
I think we just see the Make instance, like the button to build. Justin was.
Oh, okay. So hold on. Sorry about that. I thought I shared.
I was looking at it in the document. Like I just opened the document. So I was like, wait, what?
I can't do the whole screen. I thought I had the whole thing. So
it's just giving us Make.
Okay, I guess I'll share here and then we'll go back to the Make screen. So, okay, so here's the document that we're working with. This is the one you can download. I don't want to go super deep into it because you can download it, but basically it's an overview, some examples for use cases, how you can try it yourself if you want to do some quick demos, best practices involved with using Make. Here are the resources you'll have, and then here's the toolkit where we're going to go through each of the different types of AI step you can use inside of Make. It's going to give you an example or a description of what that actually is and give you some examples. So for me, when you're working with this stuff, when you get to see like the examples of how you could use it, that allows, the way I work, that allows my mind to truly understand, okay, great, I can take that example and figure out how I can apply that in other areas. So in here, we have examples of each one of those. We have this item, as I mentioned, Robbie shared that. And then I went deeper. Normally, we don't have all this, but there's so much data here. Here, I went in and did examples of when the rules and structures are enough. So if you're only doing automation, if you're doing a workflow and you're going to throw automation into that, and then here's when you can truly use an agent for what you're doing. So it gives you an example of things you can do if you truly want to use an agent inside your system. Again, that document is the one that's pinned inside the chat. If you don't see that for some reason, let us know. Now I'm going to reshare and go back to my make scenario. So as Robbie mentioned, I am not going to try to track the chat as things are going on, but you can put your questions in there. We're going to cover probably about, I don't know, 20 to 30 minutes worth of information. And then we like to open it up for questions to make sure we can try to address the questions. If you have too many questions or it's a question we can't give you an answer in the time we have, I'll go ahead and send you an answer afterwards so that at least you get your question answered. So let's talk about inside of Make. You can see this screen now. Okay. So inside of Make, you have the option here. When you drop down, you can go in. If you type in AI, you're going to have the Make AI toolkit and you're going to have Make AI agents. We're going to focus on the toolkit right now. The other thing I did want to mention is you don't have to use the Make AI toolkit if you're adept at working with, OpenAI and you want to throw in a direct ChatGPT or any other system. You can go in and you can add those directly if you want to. The thing is, though, the Make actions that we have here, if you go into the toolkit, I'll start with the very first thing, which is kind of the Ask Me Anything. If you go in here and you are working with this, you can add any one of your connections. So if you have Anthropic or Gemini or OpenAI or whatever, you can add your different connections, but still use the Make actions here. So I just want to let you know that way it kind of simplifies the process. You don't have to remember what you're using for what. But as most of you know, if you're working with AI at all, you're going to know that different systems, different AI engines are better for different things, right? So typically OpenAI and ChatGPT is good for general things or structure or pattern identification. Gemini I found is pretty good for writing. Anthropic is really good. Using their Claude process is very good for coding. So as you go through this, you'll learn, different things are better for different areas. So you can use those different connections. Then what you're going to choose in here is which model you want, right? So if you are using Anthropic, you have all these different models you can choose from. I happen to be an OpenAI guy, just that's what I use the most. But again, it gives you all the different models that you can use here based on what your task is. I'm not going to go into what all the different models do and what they're used for. Jump on the internet, you can find out what they're good for there. And then here you're going to put in your text, right? So an Ask Me Anything is pretty much a general AI request. Whenever you go into it, you can go in and any type of prompt you want to use, you can throw in there. And it is going to run that prompt. One thing that I have learned that I found out a lot of people haven't done is I like to go to AI in general. Like I would go to ChatGPT first, and I would tell ChatGPT, I am going to give you this information, and then I am going to put that into Make, and the output that I want you to give me is this. And run inside of that AI engine, inside of ChatGPT, tell it what you're trying to accomplish and what you want to get, and then say, please give me a prompt that I can use that will give me the best output. And the AI agent that you're working with will then spit out a prompt that is far bigger than what you would think of. And so that way you can get a really good head start going into using AI inside of the system. So you can tweak your prompt there, then bring it over and paste it in here so you can get the result you're looking for. Now, if you're starting from scratch, you can go ahead and make this the first thing in your system. It could be go search this web page and pull out this information or something along those lines, or generate for me a blog post about XYZ. That could be the Ask Me Anything that you can throw in there. I just want to walk through the different steps that are here. So if we go back into AI again, and in the toolkit, we have the extract information from text. Okay, so if we extract that, that's going to be where we can go in and delete that module, bring that up here. When we go into the extract section, that is where we can add data. So if we have, for example, again, it keeps picking that up, but if you go in here, you might have a step where you're going to go in and give this system a lot of information. Maybe one of the big uses for this is inside of like lead generation. There are a lot of lead gen systems that don't interface with anything else. So you have some sort of lead generator, but what they're doing is they're sending across to you an email that says, hey, Joe Smith, email, phone number, signed up for whatever. If you have that email, that could be what you're putting in here. So in that case, you would have a step in front of this that would either be check your email, right? However you want to get that data, check your email, or use a mail hook where you can forward that information to a mail hook. And then the Make AI Toolkit is going to step in, choose your model, and then in here, you would just insert the text. So for example, I'm not going to get into the whole process of, I'll just do set variables. If we were going to say, let's say that this is email content, and then the variable would be the data that's coming in, right? The data that's coming in from your email. So this would be, for example, a mail hook that's coming in with all of your email data. Then inside of here for the text, you would just put in, I have to save this. Then inside of here, you would be able to insert as the text, this would be the body of the email. And then you can hit save. Then when this runs, the email would come in, it would go into the extract information sequence, and that would then pull out the data. And you would say here, what do I want? One, I want the first name, right? So you would identify what you want out of this information. And then the description would be, first name of the person. And then the type is going to be, what do you want? Are you looking for a number? Are you looking for text? Are you looking for Booleans? A little more advanced for you, but typically you're looking for text. So now this is the first thing you're looking for. Then you would go through here and do this for, now I want the last name, I want the email, I want the phone number, etc. And you would set up all of those different steps so that when this runs, save. So when this runs, it's going to get the email, it's going to take the email into the AI step, and it is then going to extract all of those different pieces of information. Now, first name, email, all that's pretty simple, but you can get into a lot more detail there. So if you're, let's say you're getting in production, you're getting PO orders coming in, you could extract the PO number, you could extract the product, the quantity. So if you're doing things where, I have one client that they are getting these PO orders that are coming in from their various vendors that they're working with. They're a wholesale distributor, and they were going in and they had to manually parse out all that information from the email. So now they have it where it goes into a web hook and a mail hook, and from that mail hook, they're parsing all that information, pulling it all out, it line items everything for you, and then in the next step, you would have all of those pieces of data that you can just feed like into your CRM system or something like that. Okay, so that's where you can do the extract information. The next thing we want to go into is going into the categorized text. So when you're categorizing text, inside of here, it's going to classify information. So as I have written in here, it's going to classify this information. Again, this would be really good for emails. So if you have an info@yourcompany.com and those emails are coming in, inside of this sequence, what you can do is you're still going to choose your model. The text again would be the body of that email. Okay, so you'd say this is the body of the email, and then you can put in the categories. So this is going to evaluate what the intent and the category of that email is. so that now what you can do is maybe you're going to have customer support, right? And then maybe you're going to have online orders. Maybe you're going to have something else. So you can go in here, and as that email comes in, you can read the email and determine like what category does this go into. So in the document that I gave you, it's, you can quantify that as like product feedback or a support request or sales inquiry. Then what you do from there is you're going to go ahead, and I'm just going to, use these models a couple times. Then what you would do is this would be an email module, and you could fire off an email if the intent was sales, right? Because you're going to get out of this information, you're going to get the information that comes out as a category. And you're going to say, if the category is sales, and I'm not going to go through all the details of setting up a filter, but if it's sales, send an email to the sales team. Or down here, you could say, if it's operations, or it's a support request, send the email to support. Or if it's, so this is basically taking the job of looking at the email and determining who does this go to. So it eliminates that human step of somebody reading that email and saying, oh, this is a support request, I need to send this over to Mary in support. Or this is a tech support request, I need to send this to Joe in tech support. So this is going to take the place of that step. So now you can use this. They've already, so the thing with the AI agents, or not agents, I'm sorry, the AI steps that they have inside of Make is they've already gone in and built some really robust prompting on the back end, so that they simplified it for you, that you can use this and put your data in there. And they already have really robust prompts on the back end that are evaluating this stuff. So it makes it easier for you to use on the front end. So you can use this. It's going to, categorize your stuff, whatever you want to do. There's a lot of different use cases you can do there, but it's going to streamline that process. So now you don't have a customer service person that just needs to forward emails to various people. Okay. Next thing I want to go over here is going into the translate text. Well, that's pretty straightforward, right? You're working in various languages. You get an email that comes in from somebody in a country using a language you don't know. You're just going to go in here. You're going to put the text to translate, and what is the target language? Very straightforward. I'm not going to spend time on that. Identify language. I'm not going to go into that. That's basically just, very straightforward. Identify the language that's written in. Summarize text, same thing. It's going to be, here is data. I want you to summarize this for me. This is really good to use if you're doing any type of automated blog posting. So for SEO and AI, EO, I don't know what it's called now, but AI search, you can go in, and what a lot of times what I set up for myself and I set up for my clients is one of these summarized text scenarios. So we will go and we'll maybe get an RSS feed from somebody's blog. So maybe there's this great informational source, and I'll just use whatever source we want to, but just say that there's a abc.com, maybe the TV station's posting great information that you want to share, or there's a great blog for an industry leader in your industry. You can get the feed from their website, and as they post new things to their blog, they post a really long article. You can take that, run it through the summarized text. It will give you a great summary of what that article is. And then you can take that summary and post it to your website as a blog post, and then just configure it so that it creates a link back to them saying, if you'd like to read the full article, you can click here. What that does for you is that it helps you in your SEO and your AI search capabilities, that you're now providing up-to-date current information for your people, so that they don't have to go to all these different, various sites. You now become the aggregator of the information for your industry. So they are more likely to come and follow you and pay attention to what you're doing, because you're giving them a one-stop shop for all the data that they might need for their industry. So summarized text is great. This is also good if you're working with most of the agents and engines that you're going to use for going in and working with your meetings, Zoom and anything like that. They are going to automatically send you summaries as well. But if you're doing manual recording of a meeting that you have in your office, you can go ahead and you can use summarized text. I actually got a thing here. It's the pendant for, I forget what it's called, but it's a little device I'm going to be able to wear, and it will listen to everything I do all day long. But if you have something like that and you are in a meeting and it's recording everything in the meeting, you can go ahead and use this summarized text step, that when you get the data from that device, which you can set up via API, it would come through and automatically send you a summary of the meeting. So summary is a great thing to use for that. And then analyze sentiment. Analyze sentiment is going to be, basically, you're going to use this to evaluate what is the tone and what is the overriding concept of the content that's here. So we talked about earlier going through here and extracting information. So what you can do is you could have the email come in, say it's customer service emails. Customer service email comes in, you're going to extract that data from the email. Then you're going to take that data and run it through the analyze sentiment. So maybe it's all of your customer service emails. Well, let's say this, for example. Maybe what you've set up here is email comes in, you're going to parse that data out of the email. Now you have that data. Now what you're going to do is you're going to, based on the category that we've figured out that it is, right? It's going to listen and read that email and say, hey, this is a customer support request. So now it goes to customer support. But what we want to do now is we want to use a step inside of here that is going to say, okay, now we know that it's customer support. Now what we need to do is say, what is the tone of this message, right? So we're going to analyze the sentiment. And then what we do is based on the person's, this is a compliment, the person's happy, they're thrilled with our service. Or we have something where it comes out that this person's not happy, right? We've realized that this is a complaint. This person is not happy with our service. So now what you can do is if you have one person that handles the, the good emails, for example, that could go over here. And if it's a bad email, that could come over here. So now you have one of your more advanced people working with that individual because now they're unhappy about something. So you send this to your resolutions department. And then again, you could automate everything you want to through here. You could send an automated message back to that person indicating, hey, I'm really sorry that you're upset with our service. We forwarded this to one of our advanced customer service reps to reach out and give you a call. Or it could be, hey, thanks so much. We're really, we're thrilled that you're happy with our service. If you could, here's a link to our Google review page. If you could leave us a review, we would love that, right? So now you can use AI to go through this process and be able to give you the type of filtering and segmentation you need so that now you don't need that front end person who's simply reading emails and forwarding them off to where they need to go. Okay. I think there was one more in here we needed to cover, and that is going to be, chunk text. Okay. So chunk text is going to be, sometimes you get, again, we talked about getting that blog post in. Well, if somebody sends you a massive blog post, or if you're taking a PDF document that's extremely long, chunk text is going to be able to allow you to go in here, and here is like the core text that we're going to use, all of the text. And then chunk size, you would go in here and you're going to put in how many tokens you want to use. Tokens, as you probably know, is the currency of AI. And so you can say, I want to use 2,000 tokens, meaning I want to send data of this size over to the engine to be evaluated so that it can take it in bite-sized pieces and then give me the feedback so that I can then use it. So this is going to allow you to take the chunks, break them up, and then bring that data back to you so you can then analyze it, maybe throw it into a categorization or an analyze sentiment as you break it into those chunks and then analyze those smaller chunks. So those are, I will pause for just a second here. Those are going to be the different steps that you have inside of here. Again, each one allows you to choose the engine that you want to use. So you could do, if you know that ChatGPT is great for one thing, but Claude is good for something else, you can use different types of agents at different steps in the process based on the tool that you're using. I will pause for just a second, see if anybody has any immediate questions about this, before I move on to the agent section that we're talking about. Anybody have any questions about this particular piece? The value of chunking. So depending on which end, the question is, what is the value of chunking? That's a great question. Thank you. When you work with large data sets, a lot of times, if you try to run that entire data set through the engine that you're working with, it will come back and throw an error saying that your request is too large. Each of the companies, each of the different engines, Anthropic or ChatGPT, and each of their models using, O1 Mini or 5 thinking or whatever. When you're using those different models, every model has a different cap as to how many tokens you can send over in that particular model. So if you're working with a model that has a lower cap on the number of tokens that you can send across, what you do is you would use chunking, and you would say, now I know that this model can accept 2,000 tokens. You would then use the agent that's doing, the step that is the AI toolkit for chunking, and you would say, take this 180-page PDF document that I have, the content from that, run it through the thing that does the chunking, and say maximum of 2,000 tokens at a time. Then what it will do is it will throw 2,000 tokens at that engine, bring data back, throw 2,000, bring it back. So now, as you go into that, it's able to actually handle that large volume and then come back and give you output that you can then use going further down your process. Yes, so that makes sense. Using a less expensive model, you'd want to chunk, correct. Yeah, and then with the chunks that you get, so what you'll get here in the output, let me copy one of these and drag it down here. So what you'll get in the output, you put in, a chunk size of 2,000. We're going to take the email content, and then it says chunk overlap. So what the chunk overlap is like, say you're doing 2,000 tokens, you might want to overlap by about 10 tokens or something, just so that you know that you catch, the system sees that it's continuous. So if we say 10 here, whoops, what did I do here on my chunk side? Oops, extra chunk is that. So then whenever we go into here and we want to see what's coming out of this, it's going to give you the different chunks. So what will happen is you'll probably need to use an aggregator here. It will give you a bunch of different chunks as output. So let's say that you have in this case, I use 2,000 tokens. If you have a 10,000 token request, it would give you 5 different chunks in here. And then what you would have to do is take those chunks, you would throw in an aggregator, and then you would be able to take those chunks that you're getting, and then that would aggregate them. Then you can go in and say, now that I have all of this aggregated into one again, now that it's much smaller and it's broken up, then I can do whatever's next. So that's what you're going to use here to take all the various chunks you have, put them together, and then do whatever else it is you want to go down through the process and do. So sometimes what you would need to do there, you might need to put a couple different AI agents in step. So if you wanted to say, I want this broken into pieces, it runs the data through, brings back the result, and brings back the result, then you can go ahead and you can run those little pieces through an AI step that's going to analyze each of those steps. Now you have 5 different summaries of that section, blend those summaries together, now summarize the entire thing if you want to, or just use the values that you have individually and just bring them all together. So yeah, does that answer the question, Chris?
There was a lot of thumbs up. So yeah, he said.
Excellent. So now the big question everybody has, and here's the thing, I'm going to talk about agents real quick. But the thing about agents is agents are probably the hottest topic that people are talking about. Yet it's something that, we built thousands of automations for our clients, and we've built tons of stuff with AI. At this point, we have used very, very few agents inside of our building, just because, as you'll see, if you have that document, as you'll see, it says that building an agent requires a lot of training. And most of our clients are not at a point where they have something that needs that much training and can deal with the inconsistencies that you may get with an agent. The agents are great. They're very useful. And if you have a very specific use case, you can use an agent to basically, replicate the things that we've talked about here. Okay. So usually when we build, we're building in a linear fashion using that middle sequence inside of that graph or the chart that's there. It's the automation plus AI is typically where we live. So in this case, you see that we've done some decisioning already here. The agent actually acts as the decision maker. So in this automation, we're getting text, again, using that email example, we're getting text from an email. We're going to extract it. We're going to categorize it. Then when we get the category, then we're going to set up this router that says if then, right? If it is a customer service request, we're going to send it up here. If it is a tech support request, we're going to send it down here. This step as the router is actually where an agent would step in. So what you would build in this case is instead of having the router there, you would go in and you would throw in an AI agent. Now you need to build the agents individually. And so it gives information of create the context of an agent with a file, things like, so you can go in and do this information for the agent, but you're basically going to go in here and this is the building of an agent. Okay, so let's go in here and say, we're going to create the agent context with a file. All right. What that means, so we'll talk about building an agent here real quick. What that means is, how am I going to tell the agent what it's supposed to do? Okay, so your agent is going to be a very long prompt of what you want this system to do, because again, the agent is replicating a human. So humans have a lot of information they're using to make the evaluations of what they need to do. So you can either create your agent by using a file, and this would basically be maybe in front of this step would be like a Google Drive or a Dropbox. Maybe you have one document in your Drive or Dropbox that you've put the entire massive prompt of what you want this agent to do. That's how you would create this agent. So you would go in here. We're going to go in. We have one for LinkedIn content creation, but you can go in here, and I'll just choose that real quick. So inside of there, I can say, here's my LinkedIn content creation agent. And then I would choose the file name and the data that I am going to feed into it, that I'm going to pull from a step in front of it, which is from my Drive. So I have a text file over there. The text file is massive. It's basically saying, if this information seems as though it's a customer service request, I want you to run this step. And each of these steps would be their own scenario inside of Make. So this would be a small scenario. This would be a small scenario. Every option that you have that you would use a router for, you're going to go in and you're going to build an agent to take care of that, so that the agent is able to make that decision. It's really a decisioning engine. The agent is going to make the decision on what does it need to do next. So let's say, for example, the email comes in. We're going to parse this information. We're going to feed it into an agent. So instead of this router here, what would happen is you would go in here. Stop. You would just basically set it up like this. This would be what your initial automation would look like. Just these four things. Get the information, do what you need to, and then send it to the agent. Then each of these would be its own scenario that you can run. And so you would say in here, if this is a customer service request, then I want you to run this scenario. But remember, you're going to have also this scenario where it's going to have another decision. So what you could do is you could say, this is its own scenario. These would be their own scenarios. So here is the scenario where we're going to go and analyze the sentiment. So you would set up this automation so that the agent would say, go to the sentiment scenario and determine what the sentiment of this email is and feed that back to me. And so that would then feed back to your agent. Your agent would then get the information that says, this is a customer support request. Then what you could do is your agent, let's say that each of these, this is positive and negative, then your agent would decide, okay, we have the sentiment. Now that we have the sentiment, is it a good sentiment or a bad sentiment? If the sentiment is good, then we would send it to this automation where we're going to say, now trigger this scenario where we're going to go through and send all of the data that we have over to an agent that handles good things. And again, in that scenario, maybe it's not even an agent that needs to be a customer service agent that needs to be involved. Maybe all we're going to do is say, hey, this is a good sentiment. So now we're just going to fire the scenario that thanks somebody and ask them to leave us a Google review. And that scenario that you have that thanks somebody and is good for a Google review could also be used from your CRM, so that if somebody calls in and says, hey, I'm really happy with your service, they could trigger this scenario individually. So this scenario can be used from different locations. This is just the agent that's deciding what should we do with the information we have. So the agent would get the sentiment, bring it back. It would read the sentiment, and if it's good, it would fire off the scenario that says, hey, we're really thrilled that you're happy with our, and you can get this really detailed, right? Thank you for your comments. We're really happy that you're happy with your, KitchenAid mixer. If you could, please go and leave us a review. Or if it's bad, then it could trigger the bad scenario, which might fire off an email that says, hey, thank you for your concern about our product. We're going to forward this to one of our advanced support folks. They will reach out to you within the next 24 hours. Again, we're really sorry that you had the issue. So now the agent is doing that decisioning. And then if it comes in and it's not customer service, but it's going to be a tech support request, same thing can happen. Is this tech, the sentiment would come in and say it's a support request, and the category is the support request, but now we're going to run sentiment first. Sentiment is going to say the issue is, it might be a category, right? Maybe if it's a tech support, you'll tell this to run more of a category than a sentiment. But the category that you would go and evaluate is, what's the category of this tech support request? They have an issue with their login. They have an issue with their software crashing. They can't get it installed. And then here you could have one scenario for login issues where you send them an email that says, hey, we got your info about login issues. Here are some information you can use to try to figure this out yourself. If you can't figure it out, give us a call or email us back again. Or here's information on how you can uninstall and reinstall your software if it didn't work. So this is going to take the place of that customer service person that's sitting there just going through emails and forwarding it off to the different people, or sending back emails that send them information they need. This is basically, if you think about it, this is going to be situated where, this is too close, okay. Where you're going to be situated where these are all the different types of scenarios that you're going to have built inside of Make. And inside of there, pull these down here. Think of it this way. This agent is going to say, I'm going to do this first so that I can get the information I need. Then I'm going to trigger one of these other scenarios that I have set up inside of here. I have some information on agents. I forget whether it was confidential when we were at the partner, but they are making this agents easier to use. I forget whether it was public or not. But the agents are going to be easier to use. Right now, these agents are kind of in different scenarios. You need to know which agents you have here to use. Soon there's going to be a feature here where you'll be able to visually see those agents on the screen here. So you'll be able to see what's going on. So they're making it easier to use. I have a ton of information. I know we're kind of running to the end. So presume the objective of using the SOPs from boxes, the input, so you can always update SOPs as you need. Exactly. Yes, Chris, exactly. So the idea of the agent having data that's pulled from a file is that you could have all of your information in a separate file that people have access to, but they don't have to go into the automation to be able to impact what's going on inside the automation. So for our clients, for where we do something like this, it's going to be a file, or in some cases, people are very used to using Google Sheets. So a lot of times what we do is in Google Sheets, we will put the data that we need there so that the agent can go and get the data out of the Google Sheet. Maybe one column is the question, one column is the answer. So all of their FAQs, all of the SOPs, all of that stuff sits in an external document that people can use, but that document is what impacts your AI, so you don't have those people going into your automation and screwing stuff up. Is it better to create monster scenarios with many forks, or should we build scenarios that call other scenarios? Yeah, so that really is going to be, so the question was, is it better to build a massive scenario that looks something like, let me see if I can find it, that looks something like this. This is just an example, right? So this scenario automatically creates proposals from one of 100 different documents that this client has. So this would be, you know, on the verge of that monster scenario that was just asked about. In some cases, it's better. Yeah, it is a monster. So in some cases, it is better to keep it all together, right? Because in this case, none of this information is used anywhere else. Okay, this is a very specific automation that is taking data from the front end of a gravity form. It's taking that data, running through here, going to Dropbox, grabbing one of 100 different documents that we have, putting together all of the variables and all of the upgrades the person wanted to give on their proposal, putting it all together. Here are math steps. It's doing all the math. It's then putting together 3 different documents. It's a cover sheet. It's a final page with all the math. And then it's taking that PDF document from their Dropbox, blending all of this together into one PDF. And then at the end down here, it's going to fire off an email to them and save a copy into their drive. Okay. In this case, this is good to keep together as a monster scenario, because nothing we are doing in here is being used in other areas. Now, for other scenarios that we do, we like to daisy chain our operations. So for example, one really good way to daisy chain things is if you have a ton of data that's being fed into a make scenario via a webhook. Let's say, for example, you're going in and you're keeping track of every one of your CRM clients that is being updated all during the day. And you want to make sure that at the end of the day, you want to run a process that will go and maybe update your Outlook contacts or your Google contacts. What you can do is you can set up a scenario where, and again, I'm just going to use this. I'm not going to go in, take the time to do this, but you can set up a scenario where a webhook comes in with every contact ID that was updated that day. And then what you can do is you can go in here and use a data store. In the data store, you're going to add or replace a record. Let's say that it's only the contact ID, okay? So this runs throughout the day, collecting all of the contact IDs that you want, but you don't want to process them every single time they're updated. For example, inside of Keep, which is a CRM system that I'm a partner with, if you do an update to a phone number and save, fires off a webhook. If you then update the email, hit save, it fires off the webhook. But wait, that phone number was in the wrong field. I put it in field 2. I want it in field 1. Move that to field 1, save, fires off a webhook. If you ran your entire, whatever you're going to do, contact update process, every single time that webhook fires, you're going to burn through thousands of operations that you don't need to burn through. So in that case, you can have those operations hit here and feed into this data store and say, just keep track of the contact ID that was updated. So this fires, says, oh, this contact ID is already there. That's fine. We're going to keep that. Then what you do in a daisy chain scenario is now you will go in here and set up your data store to go and search and you'll run this one time a day. So now in the middle of the night, you go to this data store and say, hey, get me everybody who is updated, and then go and do, right, whatever that next step is. Run it through and say, update my my Google contacts or update my Outlook contacts or something. So this is a good example of daisy chaining, Or if you're running a lot of operations and you have a sequence that you use all the time. So again, using keep as an example, we do a process where we dedupe by phone number. So we could have a number of different intake areas. There's data coming in from a Gravity form. There's data coming in from a Facebook lead. There's data coming in from a LinkedIn lead. So this could be multiple intake scenarios that all then go and run the dedupe, so that we have this scenario is something we use from all different areas. So daisy chaining in that situation is a good thing, so that you can use one common scenario to accomplish one common task. And that way you're not replicating this portion in every single automation that you build. You're building the automation, triggering, usually for like a utility that you're using, trigger that utility situation, and then you can feed the data back if you want to into that scenario. You can actually do that in here with one of the steps for, I just blanked my, here, I think it's the scenarios. Yeah, so you call a sub scenario. So in this case, you could actually run this where if you have a variety of utilities that you want to run, great example is, let's say you're collecting data from, again, Gravity Forms, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever your different lead sources are. Maybe you want to standardize that data. Some people are entering their data as all caps for their name. Some people are doing something else. You could actually have the data come in, then run a sub scenario. You're going to call a sub scenario that is going to maybe format the first name, last name. Maybe you run a scenario that does an email verification. Maybe you run a sub scenario that goes and enriches the data, goes and tries to find more data on that person. You could call all of these sub scenarios and then have the sub scenario return the output to the scenario and then be able to move on. So it basically, that's kind of a daisy chain effect. You could use that scenario situation to call some utilities that you're going to run and then bring all of that data back. And once you have all that data back, it's enriched, it's formatted, etc., then you can add it into your CRM. Did that answer the question? Excellent. Okay. Lots and lots and lots of information there. If you guys have questions, you can throw them into the chat. I will answer them afterwards if we don't have time. Are there any other questions that I might be able to cover very quickly?
Also, Jeff, I learned a ton today, so thank you a lot for the overview and for answering the questions as they happen. I actually get the monster scenario question pretty consistently, and I went back to that diagram where it's like, is it just one deterministic flow where in that case you've got like the information coming in and got to sort through all these documents just to do one thing? There's all these different things. So it's a really good reminder for me on that. But I learned some ways of answering that question from your spiel just now because I get it pretty often.
Excellent, excellent. Hey, Justin. Yeah, so we have tons of stuff there. So I met Justin in Munich whenever we were back there for Make Waves. So yeah, so if you guys have questions, let us know. Obviously, this is like drinking from a fire hose, and I totally get that. Yeah. I tried to include some really good resources in that document. So if you did not download the document that I pinned, please go and download that. I tried to get some really good documentation. I think the YouTube section that Make has with the 10 different videos in there is going to be really helpful for you. A lot of this is trial and error, especially with prompting. Again, the one big tip I would give you with prompting, let AI give you the prompt. I use that all the time. I will ask, I'll say, hey, the output you gave me wasn't right because of, here's an example of what you gave me. Here's an example of what I want. And then run that through again and ask it to give you an updated prompt. So I have a lot of prompts that are about this long that there's no way I could have done myself. But by using AI to be my thought partner in that prompt and say, give me the information that I need to make sure this prompt is correct, it gives you lots of really detailed information, and then you can use that in your system. So, all right, I think that's it. Unless anybody has questions, you can drop questions in there. Again, if you guys need help building anything, my information's in that document. Feel free to reach out. I'd love to have a conversation. So yeah.
Yeah, thanks everybody for attending. Thanks for the content, Jeff. And you have both of our emails if you need anything. We're happy to help. Next session's in a couple of weeks. It's an intro to make session. But please give us some feedback afterwards in the NPS survey. It's very helpful to hear how the session went and what we can improve. Until next time, if you got any questions, yeah, reach out to us, and then look out for the next advanced session in a month, where we will be covering, and I'll try to get there quick to tell you. AI agents is today. Did an update. I'll send out what we'll be covering in the next one because they all say AI agents, and that's not correct. Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.
Excellent, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. All right.